safe space. We ain't never give a reason you should hide. Compile all your questions, we taking the quest. Join Tarcia on this journey to discover the rest. Go.
Welcome to the Adoption Journey podcast. I am your host, Tarcia Smith, and welcome back to another week and another journey. Before I get started, let me remind you about Black Adoptees Meetup. Go to blackadopteesmeetup.org and check us out. We're going to Chicago this year in October. Go follow the IG page, and then, of course, follow the Adoption Journey podcast, also on IG, and subscribe and do all the things at all the places. Y'all already know what to do. So in the building, y'all, this is a different kind of conversation. I have actually one of my classmates in the building today, Dr. Tanesha Lawrence. She is not of the adoption community. However, she has a conversation that you're going to want to hear about with the topic of abandonment, because you know, as adoptees, that's kind of touchy for us. So, hey, Tanesha.
In this conversation, sharing with your community.
Absolutely. So let the people know what you have been called to do surrounding abandonment, because it's a calling.
Ooh, I didn't even think of it that way, but listen, from your mouth, I'm telling you that. You know what? I feel that I'm called to share the message of what abandonment is and bringing awareness to it.
Mm.
Because so many people suffer from abandonment issues and they just may not be aware of it. And that was my story.
And it's also my story as an adoptee. I didn't know that some of those things that I was dealing with, I didn't have language to put to it.
That's right.
And now I understand, oh, that's abandonment issues. That's, what do you call it? Attachment issue. What's the word I'm looking for?
Attachment style.
Thank you. Attachment style.
Anxiety style.
And I didn't, I just thought, this is just who I am and this is just what I do. Because things like that weren't talked about in my house.
That's right.
So let's start with the very basic. What is abandonment? What is it?
You know, abandonment. So when I first started researching this topic and the Lord called me to write about it, when he showed me that I had abandonment issues, and similar to you, Tarcia, I had no idea. I just knew my behavior was not normal, especially in like romantic relationships. And then he kind of showed me that, hey, you're dealing with abandonment issues. And I was shocked because I didn't feel like I was abandoned. And I'll share my story a little bit later.
I was just getting ready to say, hold on, I think I misspoke earlier. She's not, you are actually a part of the community.
I was not, I guess
it's a kinship.
It's a kinship.
It's a kinship, but yeah. Okay, we're gonna let you get into your story.
We're gonna get into
there's
that.
There's
a little caveat too.
I
can definitely relate.
Absolutely.
To the adoption community, but so for me, I always thought abandonment meant to leave, right?
Sure.
Just leave something, leave someone, leave a circumstance. But when I looked it up in the dictionary, I loved the definition that Merriam-Webster gave because I think it's more complete and it really captures what you feel, or like some of the circumstances behind abandonment. So to abandon means to, and I'm sorry, I don't know this. So I'm reading from my little paper.
Hey, do what you need to do, girl.
Girl, it's been a long day. To withdraw protection, support, or help from.
Okay.
And it also means to give up with the intent of never again claiming a right or interest in. So
say that last part again. Say that last part again.
To give up with the intent of never again claiming a right or an interest in. And so when you hear that definition, it's so much more piercing. It's so much more encompassing. And you realize why those of us who deal with abandonment, why it hurts so much. Because imagine, this person or whomever it is gave up a claim or a right or an interest in
Y-
you,
Yeah.
right? That's really deep. So that's really what abandonment is. And then for those of us who have dealt with abandonment, because of that choice by that person who has abandoned us, then we tend to develop some very unhealthy emotions, thinking patterns, and behaviors. And so
Such
that's what I've been trying to show people.
such as, and I'm going to speak for myself, really having a hard time dealing with goodbyes on the most basic level.
Yes.
Little girl, she says she don't want to be my friend no more. I'm having a whole meltdown. I vividly remember having those meltdowns because they said they didn't want to
Yeah.
be my friend no more.
Wow. Yeah. That's
Meltdown.
a whole meltdown. I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
No
it's
language to put it to. Mom and daddy was like, oh, okay, girl.
right. Get
Get it
yourself
together at some point.
together. It's a little girl. You want that person to be your friend, to like you, to
Hmm.
want you, right? That's a basic human need. So yeah.
And then as I got older, now kind of transitioning more into high school, baby, I stayed with a boyfriend
Mm, okay.
because I know what that is now. Baby, Tarsha didn't stay single too long.
You always have somebody on your side, right? Yeah.
Ways. But
Mm.
it's I need uh give me language for it. What am I looking for when you just
It's
can't
like the affirmation,
yes,
that affirmation, the
the
validation.
validation, the affirmation. And here's the thing, it wasn't that I wasn't getting it at home because my
That part.
parents have always poured into us. Like my self-esteem is through the roof.
Right.
Probably maybe a little too much sometimes. So what they did an excellent job there. You can't tell me nothing. But that affirmation,
Yeah.
just that constant,
Yeah.
and I now know that's some adoption issues.
Right. Right.
That's what that is. So
Yeah.
now that I remember, because we've had a conversation before, I
Yes.
misspoke. Tell your story.
Yeah. So my story is that yes, it was kind of like a kinship joint, village raising me. So
But it wasn't
I,
mama and daddy.
they
Like
were involved
they were
though.
involved, but you
But
got
they weren't the primary people. So I
right.
was born in Kingston, Jamaica, and my grandmother, who, back in those days, rest her soul, my grandmother ran the family.
Yeah,
You
and
wouldn't
most of
know,
them do. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
most of them do.
Hmm.
Whatever she said,
That's what
that was
it
it. That's
period.
what it is.
Yeah.
So she made the decision, or suggested, or
No,
commanded
you said it
that
right the first time. She made the decision.
made the decision, enforced the decision. She told my mom that she should send me to America for more opportunities and stay with my aunt and uncle. Now,
And,
I don't know.
and you
Yeah,
know
go
what's
ahead.
crazy about that?
Uh-huh.
She's not even, she didn't say bring her to me. She
No.
said send her to America to go stay over there.
Right.
That's
Yeah, and
so
not with her. And she was in America, but she said my aunt and uncle.
right. She didn't, like
Yeah.
I said, she
I
didn't
didn't
say
even
bring her.
know that. I didn't
She
know
didn't say
that.
bring her here because that's what, in my case, that's what Big Mamas, that's what they did. Like you said, they ran the
Mhm.
family, and
Yes.
your mom was like,
Uh,
okay,
yeah.
I guess that's what we're doing.
Exactly. My mom was a fairly young mom, and that was exactly it. Okay, May May, we call her May May. May May said send Tisha to America, so that's what it was. So when I was like 4 or 5, I initially was in New York for like a year, and then we moved to my aunt and uncle, and everyone moved to Orlando, and that's where I grew up. But my parents were involved. My mom would come visit, regularly. My dad was already in America. He was in college. He came here for college, and he would come and I would go spend summers with him and some holidays. So it was just, in my book that I wrote, and I'll talk about it later, I call them the committee. The committee was 5 people who
Yeah.
kind of, delegated and regulated my life. And that was my aunt, my uncle, my mom, my dad, and my grandmother. And so it was this joint kinship rearing of me. But that now looking back, as you said, Tarcia, for me, I didn't know I had abandonment issues. I never felt abandoned. I had a wonderful childhood. I was overly loved. 5 people literally stifling me with love.
Sure.
But then I had those dysfunctional behaviors. And I can think back to times when I was little where I'd be sad that my mom would come visit and she would have to leave. Or
Yeah.
I'd go by my father's house and, be torn between wanting to stay with him, but going back to my aunt and uncle.
Mm-hmm.
And so, somewhere in my childhood, I internalized that I was abandoned, but it didn't come to I couldn't relate it into my subconscious until I was older. And then I understood why my behaviors were abnormal, because as a child, I perceived I was abandoned.
And what kind of behaviors do you now deem were abnormal that you were doing back then?
Girls, well, that I'm doing now, actually. Yeah. Or was doing. I'm healing from. Similar to what you said. I have some of that attachment to in relationships, but then I'm what they call disorganized. So I'm both. So I'll attach, but then there's times I'll avoid as well. I'll isolate. I'll distance myself. It's almost like, nope, I'm not going to let you hurt me. Let me close myself off before you can get in and hurt me. So it kind of was a mixture. So definitely that in relationships. Definitely a lot of identity issues. So
Oh,
huge
please talk
problem
about
with
that. Please
girl, the identity stuff.
dive into that identity,
Oh my goodness.
because that's something else that adoptees deal with, that identity.
Exactly. Right. Because you especially as adoptees, you don't know, at least in the beginning, and unless you have the good fortune, depending on how it goes, and you shared with me of, meeting your biological family, and it can go either way. Sometimes that goes really well and sometimes it doesn't. And I
Yeah.
really enjoyed hearing your story and all the different interactions and perspectives. But absolutely, you don't know who you are, really. You have this identity, like with your foster parents, your kinship parents, your adoptive parents, that shape you in a certain way, but you feel that there's another part of you missing that's untapped,
You
right?
know what's so interesting about that? In
Mhm.
your case, especially, is fascinating to me because you were around your family
Mhm.
and you still walked away with this identity
I did.
thing.
This identity thing, because I think I felt like I had to be a certain person, because I was like, why? This is not my household. That's the only way I can put it as a
Mm.
child. Like,
Mm-hmm.
almost like you don't, not that you don't deserve to be here, but technically you shouldn't be here. So I think in my mind, I was like, you better be a good daughter, make the straight A, like that perfect child, because it's like, you really shouldn't even be here. And maybe in my mind, I don't know, I was thinking you can get booted out at any minute. So you better sit right and fly right. You
Gosh,
know, that's
that's
the
so
only.
interesting. And that's with, so imagine, because I've heard stories like that from adoptees, and these are with quote unquote strangers.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. So
yeah,
imagine even more, exactly.
right. That
Someone
is, I
with,
never even,
yeah.
mm,
And it wasn't my family at all that made me feel like that.
sure.
It's just me and I don't think I recognized that as I was going through it as a child. It's just that as I think back
Mm-hmm.
and I'm remembering certain things, I'm like, that's what I thought. That's why I did that. So I became a huge people pleaser.
Another adoptee word, people pleaser.
In every aspect of my life. Not just with
Guilty.
my guilty, not just with my family, but with friends, with boyfriends, with teachers, with coworkers. You just want to be accepted. You just want to be wanted. You just
Yeah.
want everybody to like you, as you said. And so that was
Yeah.
a huge breakthrough for me, was learning to tell people no. That was huge for me.
Can you share with me at what point, or no, how did you decide I'm going to heal?
Mm. Ooh, that's so good. It's when I did a ministry called Soul Care. And I had gone through another bad relationship.
Okay.
Another. And I'd gone through that, and that's when the Lord, this was in 2010. Um I had been saved, but I kind of, had backslid, and I didn't really
Sure.
have a relationship with the Lord. 2010, after going through that relationship and God just really showing himself so clearly in a
Mm.
way where I was like, all right, God, I know you are real. Um, it's just that that kicked off my healing journey. And then so I went to seminary school to become ordained minister. And it wasn't in the plan, but part of my journey was God called me to the ministry. And it was in seminary that I came across soul care. And I really dove into soul care because I knew it was time. I wasn't in school just to learn,
Mhm.
theology, just to learn didactics. It was very clear to me my seminary journey was part of my healing. Because I
Like,
fought God. I was like, what am I doing in
all of
school
us do.
again, Lord?
All of us
I,
do.
I literally was like, more school, Lord?
Right.
But as I was there, I was like, no, this is healing that I'm not gonna get in my church because they're not talking about these things.
Woof.
Okay. They
Woof.
weren't talking, girl.
And
In the
I'll
way it
put a
needed.
pin in that because I'm coming back to that.
We're gonna put a pin.
I'm
So
coming back to that.
Lord sent me to seminary, and through soul care and my seminary professor, he's a deliverance minister. Um, God just started to show me my issues. And one of them was abandonment.
And that's what I want to ask you too. So before you get to seminary school and
Mhm.
discover soul care,
Yeah.
are you aware something's not right? Are you
Yeah.
even aware? Okay.
I was. Like you said, I couldn't put a language to it, but I just knew I didn't feel fulfilled. You just feel I felt off, for lack of a better
That's
word.
a great way to describe it.
I felt off. You don't know what it is, but you just know there's more. I'm not supposed to feel this way. I'm not feeling an authentic joy. I feel like I can't be myself. That was a
Mhm.
huge thing. Like I gotta put on. And I'm one of those people, like, people gravitate to me, but in my mind, I'm like, I know who I am, and you think I'm this way, but I'm really messed up inside. And so it's living this duality. And so I didn't want to do that anymore.
Oof.
I don't want to do that.
Was your healing journey, or is, because we're always on a healing journey,
Always. Yeah.
but was would you describe it being super difficult, or were you just at a point where you had just surrendered and you're like, I am just going to look myself in the mirror,
Mhm.
start to peel these layers back? Or what was it like for you? Because people are scared to heal, because to heal, you got to feel, and they
Yeah.
don't want to feel. So they're like, I'm going to stay here wounded and limping.
Yeah. Ooh. Yes, girl. Wounded and limping. Child, you hit that. Yes. I think for me, excuse me, I was definitely scared. And I think more than anything, I wasn't afraid to face myself, but I felt, because God usually doesn't just heal you alone, right? He usually heals you in a community, which means other people gonna see the real you as well. So I think I was scared because I felt ashamed, because he showed
Hmm.
things to my seminary teacher. Like, the man was very prophetic. And so,
Don't they just get on your nerves? Like,
girl,
why you all in my business?
and I literally, let me tell you a funny story. Like, the first day of class, and I had started to learn how to hear God's voice, and God said, go talk to the teacher. And I literally was like, I'm not going up there. This is me sitting in my desk, in my mind, like, Lord, no, I'm not going up there.
He
Go
said,
talk to the teacher. And I
go
already started.
talk to the teacher.
Go talk to the teacher. Girl, I went to the bathroom. Disobedient. I went to the bathroom. I tried to stall till, because this was before class,
Okay.
before class was starting. So I was like, all right, let me just stay in the bathroom till class starts, then he'll start. Girl, I go back to the desk and I'm literally sitting like this, like trying not to make eye contact with him. My head is down like this. I lift up and the man is standing in front of me.
And what did he say?
Just talking, like small talk. But
Yeah.
you know when you know, like this man is looking into my soul. I knew it. Even without him saying anything, I'm like, this man is looking
Yeah,
into
God's been talking to him too.
my
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
so he was asking certain pointed questions, like I knew he was, and I was just like, and so that's how it started. And then I think that's when he was like, oh, I do a deliverance class. You should come, come sit in on it. And I'm like, I don't know this deliverance
Look at you, just being disobedient.
girl. I was straight up. The Lord know who he made. I was.
Look, I can't talk. I've had moments like that. Like
Girl,
I
you could have
said what I
blocked me.
said, Tarcia. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. It's so real. It's so real. And so how long have you been on your healing journey?
Wow, so that was from 2010 till today. So that's how many years? I'm like 15 years?
15 years.
Yeah. 15 years.
And the Tanesha today, looking back at the Tanesha of 2010, whole nother person, I bet.
A whole nother person. For the better.
For the better. Do you feel freer? Do you feel lighter?
So those are the perfect words. Freer, lighter, more self-accepting and self-embracing. Like I know my flaws. I'm not afraid. I don't think I've ever really been afraid to say who I am to myself. It was just what I wanted other people to see.
To think you were.
Exactly. Because people put certain expectations on you. And so you want to live up to that.
Yeah.
But and especially as I get older, I just really don't care what people think.
Look, something happens.
Yes.
Something definitely happens. Because I can tell you the people pleasing that I had in me way back when.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Feeling. Yeah. So definitely, just more whole. I definitely feel more whole. Still have a ways to go because, as you said, it's a lifelong journey.
It's a lifelong.
But I've come so far, and I'm grateful.
I want to loop back around to the church. I too, full-fledged church girl, in church, saved, sanctified, all the whole thing. Grew up in the church, so church girl. But I think that's where I'm going to talk about the Black church because that's all I know. We're failing.
Yeah.
In that area.
Yes.
I am very grateful when I hear pastors, including mine, begin to talk about therapy.
Yes.
Begin to talk about counseling.
Yes.
Because for so long, us as a people, we don't do that. We just gonna pray about it. Take it to the Lord.
Yes.
Is what we gonna do. And for years.
Yeah.
And I've even heard people very close to me, older generation. I don't need to go talk to nobody. I'm not crazy.
Oh, wow.
Well,
yeah.
Actually you are, but no, I'm just
got a little crazy now.
Actually, you are just a smidge. Actually, you are. No, but all joking aside, that was the mentality that we're not going. And so I love the fact that you talked about, and not even realizing, you combine your faith with your healing and talk about the therapy and the counseling that you've had.
My primary counseling, so when I was in seminary, they did require us to do counseling, which was another wonderful thing. And my seminary was very much about just taking care of the whole person. I don't know if every seminary is like that. So they would require us to do counseling. So I did a couple of sessions there. But my primary counseling was through the soul care because, in addition to soul care, actually looks at some key areas such as unforgiveness, generational family, patterns, what needs to be broken, looking at fear, looking at identity. Identity is a huge thing he talks about. But as you're going through those different modules, you then break up into,
Excuse me.
God bless you,
Thank you.
break up into like counseling groups. And so he calls them triads. And so it'd be three people,
Mhm.
and you're encouraged to share in that group. And you're encouraged to be very transparent. And you would think initially that you don't want to do it, but as you're going through and because you're so desperate for that healing, I mean, I shared things with those people that nobody, except for maybe one or two people, knew, like very freely shared so many things, and they shared with me. And so, people sometimes think that you have to go to a formal counselor, and I'm not saying that you
Mm.
shouldn't. But for those of us, especially in the Black community, where we're a little leery, start with some trusted people.
Sure.
Maybe it doesn't have to be your best friend, just somebody who has a good listening ear and who you feel comfortable being vulnerable with. And that's what these groups were. We were strangers. By the end of it, we all got very close, and we were just so honest and boo-hooed and
Yeah.
cried and prayed for each other and listened and hugged. And so that was my therapy, was this group therapy through this ministry.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I'm loving that you're talking about it because it's another way. Because
Exactly.
people tend to think,
Yeah.
I gotta go and get an appointment and go sit on
Yeah.
the couch. And I do say that all the time. You need to go sit on somebody's couch. That's one of my favorite sayings. But but what you just said makes perfect sense. And then like baby steps.
Exactly.
But I think that's one of the things are the generation before us. They didn't talk to anybody. They just carried that stuff. And a lot of them still carrying it today.
That's right. Exactly. Still carrying
And
it.
just eating them up on the inside, carrying
Exactly.
stuff that they don't have to.
That they don't miserable for no reason.
Miserable.
Yeah.
Just so my final question to you, no, before I do that, let the people know the book that you wrote.
Yeah. So my book is, can I, 1 second? I'm just
Please
gonna,
go get it.
okay. And my
Go get
computer. Hold up.
it.
Sorry.
No, you're all right.
I didn't want to edit it. Okay. I want to give you extra work, but okay. So, okay. Yeah, so my book is called Ditching Abandonment, Living in the Freedom, Fullness, and Fulfillment That You Deserve.
Hold it up so we could see it.
And here it is.
Dun, dun, bum, 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 bum.
All books are sold, and Amazon, BarnesandNobles.com. And so it just dives more into the conversation that myself and Tarsha are having regarding abandonment, my own experience, scenarios that make people more prone to experiencing abandonment, such as being, an adoptee or being raised by your kinfolk, even as loving as they are, still feeling that wanting of, your biological, and then what some of the dysfunctional behaviors are. And then I talk about just some basic beginning steps for healing. No way to put all the healing stuff in one book because it is a lifelong journey,
It's
but
a
just some things
lifelong
for you to
journey.
think about to kick you off. So, yeah.
And I want to tell you why I wanted to have this conversation. I want to say it publicly. It is so important for people that look like you and me to talk about these things that a lot of people are afraid to talk about, and to let people know that it's okay to heal.
That's right. That's
It
right.
is okay.
That's right.
And there are all kinds of resources out there, all kind of people. You don't have to remain wounded. And that doesn't even mean within the adoption community. That's just all the way across the board. Because a lot of people have a lot of hurt from a lot of different things.
That's right. I 100% agree with that.
And so, but especially for people that look like you and I.
Yes.
Because I speak to it because this is what I know, baby.
Baby. Yeah.
What we don't want to do is heal sometimes. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to do any of those things. And I can totally agree with you. When you do that, there's just something different. You just feel so much lighter. Your conversation is different.
That's right.
So, my last question for you.
Yes.
Let that person that is dealing secretly with these abandonment issues, what advice would you give them today?
Wow. I would say, I would just piggyback off of what you said. The first step to healing is self-acknowledgement and self-awareness. So if you have any inkling, any nudging, anything within you that feels off, and we know when we're not where we're supposed to be. We know when we're not well. Just like you know when you're not physically well, you know when you're not mentally well, you know when you're not emotionally well. So the first thing is to just acknowledge it. It doesn't make you any less of a person. It doesn't make you a failure. It makes you someone who is a human being and who is ready to heal. So I would say first, embrace where you are, acknowledge and embrace where you are. And then there's so many resources, as we talked about. If you don't want to go to a counselor in the beginning, look up some stuff on the internet. Talk to a trusted friend. If you're in the church, there's counselors in the church. Talk to a family member you can trust. Don't go through it alone, right? Partner with somebody. And it doesn't have to be a professional in the beginning. Somebody just to hear you out, talk to you, hear your thoughts, what you're thinking, your confusion, whatever it is you're feeling. So just start there, acknowledge it, begin to share it with somebody, look for resources, and then take your time. Give yourself grace, right? You didn't get that way overnight.
Grace.
You're not going to heal in one night. It took years for us to become as messed up as some of us are, and including myself.
Including myself.
And so it takes time to unravel and undo all that stuff that is not right in us. And so give yourself grace. You're a wonderful person. Give yourself grace.
Absolutely love that. And we can end right there for sure. Hold on one second. Don't leave me. And on that note, bye, family.
Bye, guys. It was my honor, Tarcia, for being on the Adoption Journey podcast. You know I love what you're doing, and just keep doing what you're doing because you are called to reach many, and you are a blessing to many.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Journey on. You need a pie with the good. Oh yeah, what's the one?